Hello and welcome to this in-depth painting tutorial on the Striking Scorpion 82 Plus channel. And I'm your host, JB Wargamer 87, and in this episode I'm going to show you how to paint a Primaris Redemptor Dreadnaught. And this miniature is awesome. Now I haven't painted Dreadnaughts, I haven't painted a Dreadnaught for my Ultramarines collection for about, I'd say, I'm going to go for about 10 years, something like that. Now, I have repainted a few of my Dreadnaughts in my collection, and that was roughly about then, as to when I repainted them, just to touch them up and that kind of thing. But with a brand new miniature like this, I haven't painted one for years, so maybe going back about 15 years or so, something like that. So, I'm really excited about painting this miniature, really am, and the Primaris army wouldn't be a Primaris army without a Redemptor Dreadnaught. And furthermore, I'm going to be showing you, so it's really in depth, and as you're special people on the Plus channel, I'm going to show you all the weapons as well as to how to paint them. That includes the Onslaught Gatling Cannon, the Heavy Flamer, the Heavy Onslaught Gatling Cannon, the Heavy Plasma Incinerator, and of course all the other parts that are associated with this miniature. And it is super amazing. I'm really looking forward to it as well. And there is a special video on my YouTube channel, the JB Wargamer 87 YouTube channel, and I show you step by step as to how I magnetize this miniature as well. So all of this, as you can see here, is fully interchangeable. So you have every weapons option available for your tactical needs when playing games of Warhammer 40,000. And first impressions for this miniature, the Dreadnaught is huge. It is a massive model for a Dreadnaught. It's gigantic. And it's kind of intimidating first. You think, what am I going to do? As in, like, how am I going to paint the wires and all the weapons and things like that? I think I've developed a method, and it's going to be exactly the same method as you see in all of my vehicles. It includes classic Marines as well as Primaris, so I'm going to stick to the same scheme. So you'll see the rust effects and how I do the chipping and that kind of thing. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you all the things that you'll need in this tutorial. So I hope you find this video informative, and let's get stuck in. Okay, the things that you'll require is a whole load of Citadel brushes. So I reckon the brushes that I would use, this will probably be for highlighting, so that would be a base brush. Of course, my favourite brush to use from the Citadel range is the Artificer Layer brush. Definitely come in handy for those fine details. Then you've got glazes, a glaze brush that I would use. Then you've got dry brush, which I'll probably use for basing. And then you've got shade brush there. That's just for applying PVA, it's just an old Citadel brush. It's a wash brush. And then you can use a layer brush as well. It's a medium layer brush. And then this brush I hardly used, but it's going to be useful for vehicles because it will cover larger surfaces, so therefore it'll be quicker to paint. So there'll be a large base brush you'll need for that, and then of course you need a small layer brush as well to get into the more detailed parts. That there, of course, you'll need your Ultramarines transfer sheet, which you can have there. And then for the base, if you watched my how to paint my Ultramarines, I show you the step-by-step guide as to how to do basing. So already I've applied pitch sand mixed in with a bit of slate, and then I used Army Painter Grey from the Army Painter range. Use the spray paint for that, and it's ready to be painted, which is really handy to have. So all of my bases are in consistency as well. So I'm going to show you now the paints, what we're going to do. So again, these three here are not from the Citadel range, but they are good paints, and I highly recommend them to you guys that are watching this. So I use Sunflower from Folkart, and then from Crafters it's called the acrylic paint, and that is what is that called? Okay, I finally found out what the paint is called. It's called Burnt Sienna. It's from Crafter's Choice, and it's a really good paint. And I use this for rust, and I use this a lot for the buildings that you see on the Striking Scorpion 82 channel as well, and whenever we do our battle reports. And then I've got another one here, Crafter's Acrylic. This is Black Noir. Really, really good. It's low pigment, but it's really good for doing soot effects and things like that. So that's that there. And now we're going to go and have a look at some of the game colours I use. I use Ultramarine Blue. This is the Ultramarine Blue that I use for all of my Ultramarines, including vehicles and infantry. It is a brilliant paint. It's one of my favourite paints because it is simply very, very high pigment. And most of the time you'll only need to do one coat. It is that good. It is superb paint that I use, and it saves a lot of time as well. So because painting miniatures does take a lot of time. So Ultramarine Blue from Game Colour. So that is what I use. And then I use Game Colour Negro Black, which is a good colour as well. That's again high pigment for doing those black details. And then now we're going to show you all the Citadel range paints. So the Citadel paints are still fantastic. I'm a big fan of Citadel paints, and I try to collect as many Citadel paints as possible for when painting my miniatures. So these won't be in alphabetical order or in colour order. I'm just going to give you the names so it gives you a reference. Or if you want to check out the description below, there'll be all the details there. So I use Yeriel Yellow. I use Averland Sunset, Kantor Blue, Guilliman Blue, which is a glaze paint, Lothern Blue, Lead Belcher, Khorne Red, Calgar Blue. I may use this paint for slight highlights on areas, so I may not use this paint, but do keep it in mind. It will be on the list because you never know, I may do a few details with that one. Sotek Green, Moot Green, and there's a few washes here. You've got Reichland Flesh Shade, Acrylic Earthshade, Seraphim Surfia, Sycorax Bronze, Hashut Copper, Eshin Green, Liberator Gold, Eshin Grey, Screamer Pink, Mephiston Red, Warpstone Glow, Abaddon Black, Steel Legion Drab, Tuskgor Fur, White Scar, and another wash, Drukhari Violet. Now you're probably thinking, why am I using Drukhari Violet for this tutorial? That is for the Onslaught Gatling cannons, the overheating burns and the bore at the front of the weapon. So I may apply that effect in this tutorial. So that's a cool wash to use. Brass Scorpion, Dawnstone, you can see there, Administratum Grey, Elysian Grey, Stromhost Silver, and then Retributor Armour, Wild Rider Red, and of course Nuln Oil. And that concludes all the Citadel paints, and I think that's all the paints pretty much as well. And now I use Micro Sol for applying all my transfers. It's excellent stuff. I highly recommend that to you. You can get that from your local art shop. It's not a problem at all. And then I use Game Colour Wash Lavado, and it's the sepia shade. This is for doing my basing. This is a shade that I use for doing all of my wash, the basing and the washes and that kind of thing. It's a good wash. I really like this stuff. It's excellent, and it's in a big tub as well, so it'll last for ages if you look after it well. And of course you need water for doing your paints, and yes, of course you'll need PVA glue. So PVA glue, I use a very liquid old bottle. It stores old PVA glue. Now you may have noticed my old PVA glue in the other tutorial on the YouTube channel. Well, that PVA bottle has disintegrated. The UV light got to it, so I had to chuck that one away, and I got a much better very liquid bottle, and of course got a proper tab, so that's good. So then the sprays that I use, now I use Sycorax White and Macragge Blue. Now the Sycorax White you don't have to go over the top with, it's just a light coat, and this is for the edge of the armour to give it that chipping effect, and you'll see later, much later on in the tutorial how I do that. And then over the top of Sycorax White I use Macragge Blue as my base coat, so that's that there. And of course for varnishing I use Mephiston varnish from the Citadel range. And interestingly I use a Stanley knife in this tutorial to do some, it's not painting, it's to do a special effect, and I'll show you how you do that later on. So the first step I'm going to show you, as you can see here, it's all fully prepared, all ready to paint, all cleaned, all the dust has come off and everything like that. You make sure all the dust comes off before you do any spraying. And then, so I'm going to be using Sycorax White as a quick undercoat. I'm going to do, so the Sycorax White is going to do any parts that are blue. So basically anything that's blue, you do a bit of painting. So it's as simple as that. So I'll probably paint the main, do the main weapons. I'll double check in the box, and then of course the arms you'll need to do, the chest, and of course the shoulders, and of course the main chassis as well, the Dreadnaught. And the other spray I use, I just got this out, I just remembered it for this tutorial, so I quickly got this out. It is Model Mate's Primer Matte Spray Dark Grey. Now this is to spray the weapons, because obviously the weapons, they don't need to be sprayed blue because there's no blue on the weapons. So I thought, do you know what, I'm going to use this spray. So that's what I'm going to do for this tutorial, just to save a bit of time. And the good thing about that spray is that you can spray it quite heavily and it won't get rid of the detail. It is excellent spray. It is. Out of all the sprays that I use, I feel the most confident using this spray. I know this spray will not let me down. It is that reliable and it is superb. It's actually probably my favourite spray to use when doing my miniatures. So there you go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the first stage is I'm going to use the Sycorax White, and then I'm going to use the primer to take over the weapons, take care of the weapons, and then once the white dries, the Corax white dries, I'm going to give a more thicker coat. Not too thick, of course, because obviously you'll paint over the top. I'm going to use my Calgar Blue to go over the top of the white. So that's what I'm going to do, and you'll see you in the next stage. As you can see, this Dreadnaught develop. Alright, as you can see now, it's all sprayed, all undercoated. So the parts that are mainly metal I've done in grey. So I thought grey is a good colour for a good undercoat when it comes to metal. So if there's no blue panelling or anything like that, I simply spray it grey. And I used the grey as I've showed you in the previous clip, and you can see there it's pretty good detail. As you can see there, I felt very confident using it, and it's fine. It's not a problem at all. So I've done the primary weapons sprayed grey. I've also done the twin storm bolters and the frag storm grenade launchers, and I've also done these weapons here. Now these panels, I know they are the colour blue, but later on in the tutorial I'll show you how you can fix the white, and you'll see that later on. I've done that there is the Onslaught Gatling Cannon and the Heavy Flamer. I've done the blue for the Close Combat Arm there. I've done panelling as well, done it on both sides. I've done the shoulder as well. And of course I've done the main body itself. So I've done the Dreadnaught there. Now don't worry if you miss any details and that kind of thing. It's not a problem at all. Later on it'll be fixed up. So there you go. So we're on to the next stage. Now the next stage is you use lead belcher. So obviously give your paints a good shake. So there you go. Of course, lead belcher is an excellent paint that I highly recommend. This is to do anything that is metal. So obviously you wet the brush and everything like that, and you look at your manual and you can see where all the metal details and what needs to be done. So for example here, put a good splodge of paint, mix it with a little bit of water if you really want to. I try not to because there's a bit of wet on there, and you simply paint it on like that. Now I'm left-handed, so I'm just going to show you. It's a bit awkward from the painting angle, so I'm going to show you like that. So you can see there, just anything that is metal, you do a base coat of lead belcher. So for example, that arm there, all the ligament joints and that kind of thing. And in the next clip I'll show you what the next stage is. Another thing of note, you don't have to be too neat, because later on it'll be all tidied up and that kind of thing. So it'll look really good, and you'll see in the next clip all the metal details or base coating done. As you can see now, all the metal details are complete. So it's the base coat. As you can see here, it's not highly neat and everything like that, but don't worry, it'll be all neatened up later on. So I've done all around the panelling there, the ligament joints, everything like that. You can just use it as a reference on the Games Workshop website, which I highly recommend. And the good thing, actually, just to note, is that you can actually spin the images 360 degrees, unlike the box. So I've just learnt that just now, so that'll be pretty cool, actually. So as you can see here, done all the base coating on the wiring and that kind of thing. The Icarus rocket pod as well. at the back here where the mechanical parts are. And then also I've done the Dreadnaught close combat arm as well. And then I've done the other arm, the shoulder pad there. And I've basically, with the primary weapons, it's just a solid 2-layer coat of lead belcher all over the main weapon as well, and it's the same here with the heavy plasma incinerator. I've done that as well. And then underneath here, the heavy flamer, and of course the onslaught Gatling gun as well. Now I've just looked at the instructions. That's actually not blue, that's actually black. Looking at the painting guide on the Games Workshop website, so that's good. And also we've done these. Now there's a little trick that I use, is that I use spare magnets, and whenever I paint the details and that, it's a lot easier to get your paintbrush and that kind of thing rather than holding it like that. And also it reduces natural oils from your skin. And also done here as well. There's not much to be done there. I could do a bit of painting there, I suppose, but I'll sort that out in a second. But anyway, so that's the stage complete when it comes to base coating all the metal. Now the next stage is we're going to use Nuln oil. It's very, very simple process. So you get an old brush, which I'll use this old, well, it's literally a wash brush, which is perfect for what we need. Soak in a little bit of water, and then you're going to go and paint over all the recessed details where the metal is. So you give it a good splodge of Nuln oil. Now this stuff, in my opinion, is absolutely fantastic. I love this wash that Games Workshop do. Highly recommend this to you guys. So you do it all along there. Don't have to be too neat. You just want to do it so it covers all the areas, and make sure you don't miss any areas as well, which is very important. So if you can see there, so there you go. Now you do this to the whole miniature, wherever the metal details are, and then we'll come back to the next stage and see what it looks like there. And I recommend that you leave this to dry for about 20 minutes to half an hour. Something like that. Otherwise you don't want to have paint running through. Right, as you can see now, all the washes around the metal detail is all finished. You can see they're all of the metal parts at the back all done, and including the primary weapons as well. So it's all washed. I've done it so that all of this is literally washed over for the main weapons there. I've also done the little frontal weapons as well, and I've done the underslung weapons too, and of course not forgetting the close combat arm there, and this section here as well. So, oh, and that tiny bit there as well, that was a bit of metal there too. So the next stage is we're going to re-highlight, so you'll need a dry brush for this. We're going to use lead belcher, of course, give it a good shake before use. And just move these out of the way. So that's that there. Now just to make sure the brush is good, yep, happy with that. So I'm going to do this weapon for example. So you need a good tap of the brush there, sometimes I use my hand just to get rid of any excess, and you give it a good highlight. You highlight all over the metal details. This will take a bit of time, but it will bring it to life. So you can see there, just a little bit more. Get rid of any excess. And you highlight the details there. You see it just brings it out a little bit. And that's what you want. Let's do this crisscross action here. So you just keep doing this. You don't have to do it too heavily, because you're probably later on going to put a lighter metal highlight over the top of that. It's just to bring it to life. That's all we want it to do, because the detailing will all be sorted out the further we progress into this video. Just to show you again, the excess again comes out really nicely. I think it looks pretty good at the front there, along here, and then on the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this technique throughout all the miniature, and then we're going to come and show you the next stage. Right, that's the basic highlighting done with the lead belcher. You can see here it's brought it out a little bit more, the contrast on the weapon. So for example, this heavy onslaught Gatling cannon, bit of highlighted just to bring it out a little bit, just to get rid of those wash lines from the Nuln oil. And then I've done the same here for the Dreadnaught. So I've done that there just to bring it to life on the miniature. And then all the other parts that are metal too. So next stage is I'm going to use a very faint highlight. Very faint highlight of Stromhost Silver. Now this paint is my favourite silver paint. I really do like Stromhost Silver. It brings the miniature to life. It's really useful paint to use when painting the miniatures, especially how I paint my Ultramarines. So I'm going to do the same example again. Give it a good splodge, and any excess, use your hand and just highlight the miniature very carefully, using the flicking effect there, just to bring it out there. You see it's coming to life a bit more now. So then I do that. All over the miniature, so a little bit more onto here. Any excess in your hand, just flicker it very carefully. Don't go, whatever you do, don't go too mad, and also try not to make the paint too cloggy. You don't want your edge highlighting and recessed details ruined. So there you go. And also, I'm just going to put this brush to the side quickly. I'm going to use a small layer brush. A bit of paint there. Now, where the gun barrel runs, I'm going to give that a thick coat of Stromhost Silver. Just like that, so it just brings it to life. It makes it a bit neater, so you can tell that it's not highlighted. So I'm going to do the same again. Along there. Lovely. So that's that there. And then I'm going to do the same, exactly the same, with the Dreadnaught as well. So I'll come back and then we'll proceed to the next stage. Right, that is the Stromhost Silver stage complete when it comes to the highlighting. And as you can see now, it really has brought the miniature to life with the dry brushing. So that looks cool. It's already becoming like an ultramarine Dreadnought. So the next stage, what we're going to do is we're going to use Nuln oil again, and we're going to go for a glaze brush, an old glaze brush here. Now we're going to look into doing the recess details, like the rivets and that kind of thing. So let me show you for example. So we get the Dreadnought itself, the main body. So any recess details you do here, you don't have to be terribly neat, it's just an outline. So wherever there's rivets and that kind of thing, paint over the top like that. It's literally simply like that. So along here, you can do all amongst in there. All in there and around there. That's fine. We'll be painting this later on. You can touch it up. It's just to show you as an example. You do all the recess details here. More recess details there, like that. And that's basically what this stage is about. And furthermore, if you see anything, any part of the miniature that is where the silver is, if there's a bit of blue here and there, just fill it in with a bit of black wash if you need to be. So yeah, this probably will take some time, so I'll just show you again. I'm just going to do the top here. Again, you don't have to be terribly neat, because the ultramarine blue will tidy this all up and it'll really stand out. So there you go, that's that stage, and we'll go on to the next stage in the next segment. Right, as you can see, all the blue is now officially done, like the base coating and that kind of thing. You may need to use the blue again to tidy up areas as we progress in this tutorial. But as you can see now, it's a lot neater. All the blue's covered. So when doing the blue, in my opinion, it's the longest segment, as in like how to paint this miniature. It does take a long time. So you have to make sure it looks good. And the good thing about this paint, it's mainly one coated because of the high pigment. So game colour, ultramarine blue is really good. I highly recommend that to you. So the next stage now, after you've done that, is that we're going to go onto the black. Now I'm going to use game colour Negro Black, so I'm going to use that and give it a good shake. So the parts that need to be painted black will be the main frame of these underslung weapons, the primary weapon, and then you've got underneath the hand, so around there will be black areas. So basically you just look at the box or the Games Workshop pictures online and they'll show you where to paint black. So the other thing as well, if you want to do that, is there's some black areas like around here, for example, and then you can tidy up some areas as well with the black itself. So, as an example, we're going to paint, let's do the Plasma Annihilator, or heavy Plasma Incinerator. So you can use a layer brush for this, because it's quite large. So you can adjust the brushes however you want. Now, with this here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint along the edge there, but what I'm not going to do is go right to the edge. If you get what I mean, I'll show you in this example here. So if I just paint this on, again this is high pigment, so it's a good paint, you don't need lots of layers of paint. Here. Now for this weapon here, as you guys are very special on the Plus channel, that you have subscribed to us in supporting us, I'm going to show you later on how to paint the plasma rays, so that's going to be really interesting. So that's cool. But what you do for the time being is that you paint it as though it's not there. The plasma rays have not been active. So let's just do this a second, just as an example. So if you do it around the edge, don't worry too much. That's better. So you do that like that. There. Now I'll neaten this up later on. Just a second. There you go. Right, so if I just zoom this in for you, let's go into a little bit closer. There you go. So as you can see here, I've done it so you paint the Negro Black around, but you don't paint all over the edge, because it's all done for you. And it's a similar way of how I do my bolt weapons and plasma weapons and that kind of, well, basically all the Space Marine weapons. I think it gives it a nice touch. So you've got that chipping effect as well as an edge highlight as well. So it's all in one. So that's what I do there. So I do it to this weapon here, and then you apply this effect to all the areas that are painted black. So I'm going to continue with this, and then in the next segment you'll really see in it the colours come to life. As you can see now, all the weapons are pretty much getting there when it comes to the black. So as you can see here, as explained earlier on, you see how I've kept the original colour when it comes to the metal. I've just painted the black round the edges, so it's all the edge highlighting done for you. So that's a little trick I've learnt when doing these. It looks super good, and I've done the same here with the heavy onslaught Gatling cannon. So I've done that, and I've done the arm as well underneath there. Now I know it's a bit shiny, but don't worry, the matte varnish will get rid of that glossiness. It's a high pigment paint, so it will look a lot better when it's varnished. So there. And then I've done some adjustments at the back as well. Not too much on the back, it's not too much black on there. But yeah, it's getting there. And I've done the Icarus rocket pod on there as well. Right, so the next colour we're going to do is we're going to use this here. Now this here is like a rust paint. Now this here is called Cynthia, I think it's called Burnt Cynthia. That's the one, it's called Burnt Cynthia. Now this colour here, if I can get a small layer brush you'll need for this. Now this is to do rust effects. It's very, very simple. Now, as you can see here, the blue has covered it really well, but it looks a bit stark, in my opinion. So what I'm going to do is, to get rid of those edges, to tidy it up, I'm going to use a rust effect. So what you do is you do 50-50 water, just dip in with water like that, a little bit more, and wherever the rivets are, just cover over the top like that. Use your finger, rub it off there. Let's put a little bit more water onto there. So anywhere where there's a rivet, you do that, and you do that, and you leave that to dry. And when it dries, it will look a lot better. So just be patient. Just apply here. You can do it to the recessed details as well. And the good thing about doing it 50-50, you get to see a little bit of black and a little bit of the rust colour. So I'm just going to do this here. Now I'm going to do it here as well. A little bit on the top there. And you just do that. It really is as simple as that. And when that dries, and you do that to the whole miniature, it will look a lot better. Even on the top around the edges here. This is how I do all my vehicles. So there you go. I'm going to carry on and do this, and when it dries and everything like that, you'll see the final result, and it will look really, really good. Another thing I've got to show you before you go too far ahead, just to save a little bit of time. As you can see, I'm doing the rivets at the moment. You'll need to use Guilliman Blue, which is a glaze paint, and there is a particular area that I want to cover. And when you look at the front here, it looks a bit stark, very, very stark. So in order to tone that down, I'm going to use just an old brush here, and this is just an old wash brush, and I'm going to apply it literally over the top, over the whole thing, at the front, just at the front section. Now you give this at least 20 minutes to dry, and you'll see why when it dries it gives it more contrast at the front. So whilst that's drying, just to save a little bit of time, I'm going to continue with the rust effect. As you can see here, I've done a few more rivets on the top there, and I've also done the edges as well, where the edge highlighting is, and it will really bring it out to its full effect. So there you go. I'm going to carry on, and I'm going to see you in the next segment. Now that all the rust is done, you can see there, it's coming to life a little bit more now, so it's good. So a little bit of rust effect down here, around these areas, underneath here, and around there. I've also done the arm, this combat arm. You can see there. If I can move that to there. There you go. And I've also done the front breastplate as well. So I've done that. So that's looking good. Now, another colour I'm going to use is Kantor Blue. Kantor Blue. Kantor Blue. Now, you don't have to do this everywhere, but I'm going to do a slight shade colour, especially where it's heavy. So for example, if I show you over here, see it's a bit dark, I'm just going to do that, just to give it a bit of shade. Do the same here, and then quickly, before it dries, use your finger and water to get rid of that. You can see there, just like that. And do the same here, along with like that. Doesn't matter if it goes over the rust is just a covering. So that's that there. Now with the arm, I am going to stipple with a bit of foam, packaging foam, now, especially where it meets, like for example the chipping and that, you just put a dapple around there. It's more concentrated on the arm, the hand rather, because this is going to be slightly chipped. So dapple it on again. You see that? See that it's not the same colour blue. So I'll put it in for you. So it's not the same colour blue. It's a slightly darker blue, and that gives it good texture to do the chipping. So you can, if you want, just apply it on random spots like that. Now the Primaris, this is they're a bit more newer, so I don't want to go too overly chipped. Again, just chipping it just to give it some character. Do the chipping near the arm. I mean, look at it already. It looks already a lot better. So the great thing about sponge is it's really good stuff. Yep, just a simple old sponge, and it gives you that effect. And already, I'm pretty pleased with that. It's not over the top, it's not too much, it's just right. And that's what you want it to come out like, just right. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that. So I'm going to do that to the whole miniature, and we'll come back and see what it looks like next. So all the stippling is done with the sponge, and you can see there's slight contrast with the chipping. It's just to give it a little bit of effect there. So I'm pretty happy with that. And I may do some more there actually, so just a second. I'll just do that quickly whilst it's on camera, so I'll give you another idea what it looks like. So again, Kantor Blue. Stipple it there on an old surface. And you just stipple it like that. It's just basically an old GW sponge that you get with your packaging foam. It really is as simple as that. It gives it that effect. Now this technique is new. I haven't applied this to any of my vehicles, but it's such a good technique that I really wanted to apply it on my future models. especially the Primaris, because Primaris are super good. I've done that effect, and it just brings it out a lot better. Now the next stage, after you've done that, now you have to be very careful with this. You don't want to do it over the top. You use Calgar Blue. Calgar Blue. Now again, it's a slight highlight. You have to do it very, very thinly, very finely. Just do some of the areas. Just very, very faint. Maybe a little bit more. Do it on your hand. Just do that. Just to give it that effect. Just a little bit more. So you can see there, it's just very, very faint. Whatever you do, don't go over the top, because you don't want it to go over the metal details. Onto there. Now the legs you don't have to do, because we're going to do something special with the feet. So it looks as though it's been, the metal was a bit fatigued. So it's just very, very faint highlight. Just like that. Simple as that. So you have to do this very, very lightly, because if you do it too stark, you want it subtle. You don't want it too bright. Just do that again. And I'm going to keep this going at this stage, because it's actually quite an important stage. Just have to bring it to life, and then down here you can see there that the glaze has done its job. It's filled in that crack so that it's not too stark, because it will neaten up the edges for you. Let the wash do the work. Just again, a little bit more. Putting it on your hand is actually a really good way of absorbing the excess paint. It's only water based, so it's easy to wash off if you are new to painting. I mean, already it's coming out really, really nicely. Just a very faint highlight. That's all you need to do. So I'm going to carry on, and then we're going to go on to the next stage. So now you can see the miniature is really starting to come to life now, with all the chipping effect applied, the contrast for that. Now we need to add the real metal. Now for this, there's two metals. The first one we're going to use is lead belcher. So we can obviously give it a good shake. Now this you apply more than the lighter silver, which we'll be using Stromhost Silver. Now you don't do this as much as the Kantor Blue. You only just apply a tiny bit, just very faint. So if I do that, just there, to Just odd places. It's very quick, very easy. Don't have to do it all over the miniature. You can even just leave if you want to. Just the Kantor Blue chipping effect. And if it's a bit too much, like for example here, don't worry, just apply more Kantor Blue. Onto there. There you go. So a little bit of splotch more. And do that there. Now for here, you can do it a bit more than normal, because we're going to apply a special effect on these feet a bit later on. You can do that in preparation. Like that. Just going to show you quickly there, and then onto here. Remember, don't go over the top, whatever you do. You just want it a little bit subtle. That's all you want to do. Just a little bit subtle. Already it's coming along really nicely to there. So that's that there. Do this one here, just very faint again, very faint. Whatever you do, don't put too much on. Now the arm, close combat arm, you can do it a little bit more than normal. See that? See the chipping effect on the arm? But again, try not to do it over the top. You can do it a little bit more than normal where it's chipping, but don't, whatever you do, go over the top. You can chip that off like that. Already that's looking pretty. I love doing chipping effect. It's really good fun, and it brings the vehicle, especially vehicles, brings it to life. So there, look at that, looking good. Looking good already. So I'm going to finish this off here, which I'll just be a few seconds. A little bit there, a little bit here, just odd little bit there, like that. You can see that? Just very faint. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a different foam brush, piece of foam in here. I'm going to use Stromhost Silver. Now, the key to this is to not do too much. Don't do too much, because when you look at the miniature you want to look at the blue first before you look at the chipping. If you do it too much, you'll look at the chipping first, then the metal. Paint what you can see, not what you think you see. So, very faint. Again, just be extra careful. Don't go over the top. Just very faint. But what it does, it brings the contrast out. See, the Kantor Blue is your base coat. I'm going to show you the arm. because the arm is the critical part of the tutorial when it comes to doing the chipping effect. Like that. You see that? Just rub it off if you do a bit too much. I mean, already it's looking pretty amazing. It's really good fun, and it's just such a simple technique, and it's brilliant. It's very, very useful to do. You can see that it's not too stark, it's not too bright, and you look at the blue first before you look at the chipping, which is the aim. Onto there. Now let's apply this effect onto here. Let's put a bit more on. Sponge is really, really good. When you know how to do it, it's very useful. Just very, very faint. There you go. Just like that. Normally I would skip this, but I can't emphasize how important this stage is. So, just very, very faint. Example there. Here. Onto there. Again, if you just want to leave the Kantor Blue chipping effect, that's perfectly fine. You can do that. It's totally up to you. But wherever you think it needs a little bit of chipping, just simply apply it. Right, as you can see now, the chipping effect I'm really pleased with, but there's something else I'm going to do. And this is where the white undercoat and ultramarine undercoat comes into play. So the two sprays that I've used is ultramarine blue or Calgar blue, or I think it's Corvax white. Just double check. So I think it's Corvax white, and yeah, Corvax white. That's the one. That's the spray. But the great thing, what you can do is, if you want to, this is up to you. What I do is I just chip it off like that with a Stanley knife, a sharp Stanley knife, not over the top. Now, if it was just grey, you couldn't really see it, but with the white, you can. So you just chip it off with a Stanley knife, like that. A little bit of excess there. There you go. And the good thing about this, it sharpens it a little bit. Sharpens the chipping. Just apply the Stanley knife over and around. Like that. A little bit of flicker paint will come off. Just have to blow it off. But what you can do, if you're very careful, not over the top, you can put the odd chip in on the flat surfaces. Now, this technique I did for years. It was actually when I first started painting ultramarines, and I still use this technique now. I think it brings it out really well, and it does actually save time when it comes to the highlighting. So, out of all things, the Stanley knife can be an edge highlight. You see that there? Just very faintly. And you do this all over the blue. And just do that, like that. So there you go. Just going to do this on the top here. See that? So you've got the grey, and you got the white, and you got the blue, and the base coat blue as well. So there's actually quite a few colours in there. So actually the grey plastic acts as though it's a highlight. So there you go, look at that. Comes along really nicely. And you apply that effect to the whole of the miniature, and I think you get the idea what needs to be done. And I'm going to fast forward to the next stage, and you'll see this Dreadnaught come to life. And I think all the chipping effect will be complete as well. You can see now the chipping effect is almost complete, and it's coming up really nicely. You can see there with the Stanley knife, just to chip some of the edges, just to give it that contrast and edge highlight as well. So you can see that there, it's coming to life. It's looking good. You could go on and on and on with the chipping effect, but obviously you don't want to do it too much, just very subtle. So there you go. Now the next stage is we're going to do some wearing on the feet and on the arm. Now this is just an extra highlight. Now what we're going to do is not really a highlight, we're going to be using Nuln oil. We're going to darken it just a little bit. You get an old brush, apply the Nuln oil, you're going to apply it on the feet. Now the feet get a bit fatigued due to soot, dirt, grime and that kind of thing. You do that to all the feet. You don't want to do it too heavy so you don't see the rust, but you want it a little bit grubby. So you do that on there. You can see that? A little bit dirty. So just do that there. You do that. I'm just going to show you the foot as an example. So there you go. That's that there. And then for the edge, where it meets with the more cleaner part, give it a bit of water. You have to be quick when doing this. Apply it on the edge like that, and then on the bottom, obviously where the sponge hasn't contacted, you'll need to do those parts as well. So again, no oil, and it's very important you don't get the gloss version, it's just the regular no oil. You do this very quickly into here. Do that. You see how that blends in with the metal. There you go. Make sure you do it as quickly as possible, otherwise it will dry out. You don't want the splodges effect. So you want it so that you want the base colour and the wash matching, so it blends in a lot better. So that's that there. So then what you do now is you get a smaller brush to fill in where the bottom is, so you can see there where it doesn't make contact. So you get a good wash on top like that, and onto here. Now this finishes the highlight on the bottom, just in there. It really is as simple as that. You just do that subtly. Just clean that bit there. You see that? It's all blended in now on the bottom. It looks really good, and furthermore you've got an extra layer of chipping as well. So if you look there, you can see how that is drying up and it looks worn out. And I'll do exactly the same here, and then when we come back I'm going to reapply the chipping like we did in the previous few segments with the Kantor Blue sponging effect, and then with the lead belcher sponge, and then of course the Stromhost Silver. And then once that is done, you'll see that really come to life, and it looks realistic as well. So I'll see you in the next segment as I carry on doing this. Now you can see the chipping effect has been reapplied onto the feet, and you can see there it's darkened down, so it blends in, fades in into the main coat. So yeah, it's coming alive now. So I'm pretty pleased with the close combat weapon, and of course the feet as well, because they would be worn out a little bit more than the top half of the body. So the next stage I'm going to do is simply just to tidy these areas around here, just to give it a nice highlight so it's a good contrast and everything like that. So if there's anything that's blue or any gaps or anything like that, use a bit of Stromhost Silver, and I'll do that in the next segment. As you can see now, the metal's been tidied up on the bottom where the sponging effect has taken place. It's really coming to life now already. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use Chaos Black. Now Chaos Black should be here. Now Chaos Black, obviously you give it a good shake. Now Chaos Black is a bit different to Negro Black. Now this is not as high pigment, but still it's got good pigment. So I use that there. And what you want to do is you want to paint all these ligament joints on the Dreadnaught. So with this one, it's not too many ligament joints. So I'm going to use a small layer brush for this. And I'm going to get a good dollop of paint. Put it into here and fill in that crack where the ligament joint is there, if you can see. So it's just there, just to give it some extra colour. It detracts from the metal. So I'm going to do that. That goes on there like that, as simple as that. And I'll do the other one. On that side there. Extra water. So I'm going to do this, and then we'll go on to the next stage. So there you go, simple as that. It didn't take too long. Just painted the ligament joints there. And the next stage for that, to finish that off, is we're going to use Eshin Grey. Eshin Grey. So Eshin Grey. And we're going to go an edge highlight onto those joints. Just a faint highlight. Just on the top there, like that. Don't have to be too finely detailed. Just enough so that you can quickly. You can see now the Eshin Grey is filled in just to give it a bit of contrast on those joints there. Now the next colour we're going to do is we're going to use acrylic paint Black Noir. Now this has a low pigment black, and the places we're going to paint are the exhaust pipes on the top, and furthermore any piping as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a large, if I can find it, here we go, a medium layer brush. And I'm just going to paint it onto here, like that. And the good thing about this, it will dry, so it's not shiny at all. It's nice and flat. It's a very flat colour. And it's a good paint. And the good thing about low pigment is that it doesn't dry as quickly, so it gives it a bit of time. And just to fill in those pipes, as you can see now, the piping work, I've done the piping work there near the vision slit, and also all the piping work done there, piping work there, and furthermore in here. There's more wires and things like that, but we'll paint them later on as we progress in this tutorial. So, now that the armour is pretty much done, now we're going to go on to the detailed parts of the miniature. So what way to start than to use gold. And I'm going to use the gold parts to really bring this Dreadnaught to life. So, what you'll need is you'll need Retributor Armour. Retributor Armour is an excellent base paint. So give it a good shake. So I've only got a little bit of this left, so I have to be a bit careful. So I'm going to use a medium layer brush for this. Again, you have to be quite neat with this. So I'm going to put some onto here, and I'm going to do gold on the top there, just like in the illustration on the cover of the box itself. So the good thing about Retributor Armour is it's a good, very good base paint for painting gold. It's a brilliant paint. So I highly recommend that you do this. So I'm going to paint all the gold details, and then we're going to advance to the next stage. As you can see, the gold now with the Retributor Armour has been applied, and whilst that's waiting to dry, I'm going to do this. I forgot to mention this earlier on, but it's the smoke exhaust vents on the top. Now I've already painted these with the Black Noir, the light pigment, and I'm going to apply some smoke effects just on the top of that. So you can see there, it's a bit smoky. So that's what I'm going to do. So I've done that. I'm going to do the same with this one here. You keep dabbing. The good thing about this paint is low pigment, so doing soot effects is really handy. So you get that finish onto there. looks pretty good. So you can see there it's been applied with the soot. Now, to give it a bit more contrast, I'm going to do an edge highlight. I'm going back to the metal. So I'll just put this down a second. I'm going to use Redemptor for this stage. Now what I'm going to do is just where the soot is. Don't have to do it for all the exhaust vents, but it's just on the top there. Just on the top. You don't have to do it over the top, as in like over highlight, just very faint. You see that? Just going to apply some more here, just on the edge highlighting. And what it does, it brings it to life. So there you go. That's just the top. And I'm going to come back in the next stage and I'll show you what that looks like. As you can see now, the exhaust pipes have been recontrasted. I use the Redemptor just to go around the edges, just a faint highlight around there, edge highlighting along there. You can see there, just brings the colours to life a bit more. So the next stage now is we're going back to the gold, and we are going to use Reikland Flesh Shade. It should be here. There it is, Reikland Flesh Shade. So we're going to use this paint, or wash rather. There's a shade. Now I'm going to use a layer brush for this. You can use a glaze brush if you want to. My glaze brush is a bit worn out, so I'm going to do that, and you just run along there. Just like that. You allow that to dry for about 20 minutes. Just go along the edge there. Do all the gold details very carefully. Edge wash. And it's as simple as that. So I'm going to show you the next stage once that is dry. Once the Reikland Flesh Shade is all dried, you see that the gold areas have been base coated and washed, and furthermore I've done this here as well, the front armour plate too. So the next paint you'll be using is one of my favourites. It is Retributor Armour. So you recoat this again over the top. And use a small layer brush for this. And then you just paint over the edges like that, but not so that it gets rid of the detail. You can cover that over the rivets, kind of thing. You go along the sides as well, and not forgetting, if you can, go on the edge there as well, where you can paint over the blue on the side. That'll really bring it out. So you do this with all the gold details, and it should look like this. It should look like that when it's all dried, and also when it's all finished. So we're advancing to the next stage, and whilst I get this done. The Retributor Armour is now on. It's a good base coat and I've done it also to the armour plate, and furthermore applied it to the weapons as well. So I've done it to all and where it needs to be applied. So the next stage we're going to look at is we're going to use Liberator Gold. Again, another excellent paint I use doing vehicles, and I'm just going to highlight where the gold is, so not too much. That's you don't want it to be too stark, so just a very faint amount, just along the top there. It's pretty easy. Again, Citadel paints are, in my opinion, some of the best in the world. I really like them. You just get used to it the more you practice. And you just keep going. I'm going to do the top here, just along there, along the side. And I keep going. So in the next segment we're going to apply another shade to really bring out that gold. Liberator Gold is applied, and now to really enhance that gold I used Stromhost Silver. So again, give it a good shake before applying the paint, and just a little bit. Now you have to use an artificer brush for this, because you have to do some accurate work here. It's where the rivets are on the top, so you simply do that, and that really enhances the gold on the top there. So you just apply a little bit more on there, and I'm going to keep rolling the camera just to show you how important that is. So then what I do is I do an edge highlight along the edge, so hopefully you can see that. You just do an edge highlight on the side like that. You see how that brings the gold out a bit more, and if you're really skilled you can do it on the opposite side. Just apply a little bit more. So you apply it on the side like that. Just have to be a bit careful. You don't want too much going on there, and already it really enhances the colours. It pretty much looks like that. Just a little bit more here. And then furthermore, if it's a flat gold surface on the side here, for example, try and do this as angled as possible. You paint it on so that you keep doing it until the silver fades away. Therefore you get a natural fade. So you get a good contrast. Not too much, just enough so that you see, if I can show you the camera there, so you put it along the side there and it gradually fades in with the gold. I'll just do it on the top here. I'm going to turn it upside down. Just apply the silver like that. You see how it blends? Let's apply a little bit more. Blends in like that. And it will give it a natural gold look on the miniature, as you can see there. So I'm going to do all the gold details, and then I'm going to show you the next stage of this vehicle. There you go, all the metal details are done, and now the gold is complete as well. So that's really good news now. The Dreadnaught is gradually progressing, and it's well over halfway now to completion. So what we're going to be doing now, we're going to be taking a break from painting the Dreadnaught itself, but we're going to be looking at the weapons a bit more now in this segment of this painting tutorial. And what you're going to do next is we're going to paint some bronze effects, especially on the primary weapons, the heavy onslaught Gatling cannon, and of course the heavy plasma incinerator. So anywhere that's bronze we're going to be painting. So what you'll need for this segment is, if I can find the paint, it should be, here it is, that's the one we'll need. We're going to be using Hashut Copper. Now Hashut Copper is a good paint, a good base paint actually, to use when doing the bronze effects. So obviously give it a good shake. I give it a good shake again. So I'm going to be using this, let it drain a little bit so we don't waste any paint. There we go. Let's see if it comes out a bit more. That'll do, that's fine. So we use that there. So for the bronze effects, it's going to be on the plasma canister here and also the other plasma canister there. So what I'm going to use, a medium layer brush for this. So you need 2 coats of this paint. So put it there. I'm going to paint these areas here, just like that. So I'm going to be painting this, probably 2, possibly 3 coats of this. Just take your time. Remember, it's very important to do multiple thin layers rather than one large thick coat in case you lose any detail. So I'm going to do that. These parts here. And then whilst that dries, I'm going to do the next section. So make it quite thin actually. With layering paint you have to be a bit patient. The paint colour that I find you have to be the most patient with is of course white. White is a very hard colour to do multiple layers without loads of paint strokes. You don't want that when doing your models. So multiple thin layers is the key to doing this. So I'm going to do that just to show you. You'll possibly need, like I said, 2 to 3 coats when doing this, and we're going to show you what's going to happen. So it'll look like that for 1 coat, and I'm going to keep applying multiple layers, 2 to 3, see how it comes out, and I'm going to show you what the next stage is. There you go, that there is the Hashut Copper that has been applied. I've done it so it's done at the back here, done there, and then done here. And I've done also the heavy plasma incinerator as well. So I've done 2 coats of the Hashut Copper, so that there is complete. Now the next stage we're going to do is we're going to use Acrylic Earthshade. Now to make the bronze a little bit more dirtier and how could I put it, a bit more fatigued and that kind of battle worn and that kind of effect, the wash here, Acrylic Earthshade, should help us applying that effect. So we're going to use just this brush here. You can use I would recommend a glaze brush for this, but I'm just using a shade brush for this. So just to get it done, so we want to get this Dreadnaught onto the battlefield and ready for action for future battle reports. So just give this a good wash. You can go quite heavily with this actually, because it will make it look as though it's a bit rusty and a bit worn. So you apply that onto there, and you allow that to dry for about 10 minutes or so. So you apply that to all of the brass, and when that dries we'll apply another special effect over the top. Now that the Sycorax Earthshade has been applied, now you apply Seraphim Surfia. Now this enhances the bronze a little bit more. So use an old layer brush or glaze brush. You apply this over the top. It simply goes on like that. Then not as heavily as the Sycorax Earthshade. Not as heavy. You can do that. So there you go. So that's what it will look like. If I can get that on camera for you guys. So it will look like this. You just apply that. You apply this to all the bronze details. And when that dries, that'll look really good. And then apply some special effects after that on top as well. So that will look good. Now that the brass effect has been applied and all the wash is complete, now it is time to do some highlighting. So as you can see there, it's quite dark, but we want to brighten it up a little bit more, so it gets good contrast. So what we do now is we're going to use Sycorax Bronze. So this is going to be a highlight. Now you get a small highlight brush, just make sure, just give this a good shake. Now we have to be very careful that we don't highlight over the top of the metal, the regular metal, so we want to be careful with the bronze. So we're only going to apply this to the bronze parts of the model. So it's just a very faint highlight that you won't want to aim for. So got that there, put it in our hand, and then very carefully apply that effect just over the top. Don't have to go over the top, just as though it's slightly done. So just a little bit more there, give it even more of the excess, and just to go, just basically like that. Apply that to there, and you'll see later on, applying another highlight over the top. It's just to make it a little bit shiny. That's what you're aiming to do. So just do that. Already it's coming along really nicely. It's as simple as that. So you just do that, and then you just apply it just a little bit more. And I'm going to continue doing this, and then I'm going to show you the next stage, and it should be the final stage on how to do bronze. Now you can see that we're almost done the brass and bronze effects onto there, and now just to finish it off, I'm going to use Liberator Gold. Now you don't apply too much of this. Now this is just another edge highlight over the edge. It's just to give it a bit of colour. That's all you want it to do. It's just to top it up. Just to enhance the bronze. Yeah, and again, don't apply too much, whatever you do, otherwise it will become very stark. Just over the edge. If you see that on camera. So just apply it to the edge, get rid of any excess. just to enhance the colour a little bit more. So just do that there. See, if I applied silver, it will look a bit too goldish. You want it to look as though it's still bronze. It's just to make it as though it still looks rough surface and bronze at the same time. So I'm going to do the edge highlighting with this colour, and then we're going to go on to the next stage on how to paint these weapons. As you can see now, all the brass effects have been complete. It's just to enhance the colour on the edge highlighting with the Liberator Gold. Not too much so that it's not too stark. It still looks bronze. That is the whole point of doing that part of the tutorial. So, next we're going to be doing the plasma rays on the heavy plasma incinerator. Now, this effect will really bring this weapon to life, and I do this with all my plasma weapons. So what colour I normally use is that I use a turquoise blue colour. If you look at the narrative for Warhammer 40k, Space Marines can have, especially from the Ultramarines chapter, turquoise plasma rays, or you can go for green if you want to. But the most common in my research over the years is turquoise blue. So, but you can go for green. There's nothing wrong with doing that at all. So what I'm going to use is that I'm going to use Sotek Green. Now it is like a turquoise colour, but it's still a greeny colour. So we're going to be using a layer brush for this. And this is a background colour. So what we're going to do is you're going to paint onto here, this segment here. You can paint this actually quite neatly. It's actually quite important to do it as neatly as you can. Just along here. And it's actually quite a good paint, so you probably only need one coat of this. So you just paint that all over the plasma ray, and that includes the edges as well, so you can go over the edges like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint this, and oh, by the way, before I advance to the next segment of this tutorial, it's important to paint these the same colour and inside the plasma ray. So you've got them and them inside. You do that as well on the plasma rays. So I'm going to continue doing this. Probably need two coats for this, so it's important to do that. As you can see here, that there is the background colour or base coat for the plasma rays. Now, this is where things get a little bit interesting. We're going to use this colour, Lothern Blue. It's a turquoisey blue colour, which I recommend using. Now there is a technique that I'm going to show you. It's going to take some time, so I need to make sure this is right. So obviously give it a good shake and everything like that before applying. Now what you do is you make the brush quite flat here. Now you may need two coats of this, so apply it to the surface like that, any excess, and you go along its side, along here, just very, very gently bristle your way through. You keep doing this until all the layers start building up, so you probably need a little bit more. So you just do that. See how it all blends in. So you've got the background colour, you've got the ray colour. Then actually just put that like that. Let's start that again. So do that there. And then you do it the opposite side as well. So you go along like that. Now I'm going to do this along both sides, and then at the end of the next clip I'm going to show you how to do the flash on the sides at the edge of the plasma ray. As you can see, the edge highlight along the sides is complete on both sides. You can see how the plasma ray is beginning to show. Now I'm going to do the inside very carefully into here. So don't, whatever you do, paint the edge around there with the same colour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you just one of these. So what you do is you simply paint the inside there, and then if it goes over the edge, don't worry, just get a bit of water and you clean it off, or just get a little bit of paint. It actually dries quite quickly, so it's easy to repair, it's not a problem. As long as it goes inside. Let's do it again with this side. Yeah. So we do it on the inside there. It's just to give it some contrast. Let's put it upside down. Like that. So I'm going to apply this to all the insides, and then actually, whilst this is on film, I'm going to show you the edge around here. So the edge is going to be plasma rayed. From the inside, it's actually quite a thick coat of paint you'll need here. So I do the edge on here, just to make it look as though it's glowing. Now you can use airbrushes and that, but this is all freehand. So this is just my technique of doing these plasma rays. Now you do inside as well. Now you do it in the middle, the inside there. So you can see inside there, there's a slight plasma ray in the middle. That's coming along nicely. You just do that along there. And when I come back, these will be neatened up on the inside, and then we're going to do an edge special effect, a ray effect. Now that I've done the inside, and on the edge around here, we're going to apply, to make it a bit more brighter and more vibrant, we're going to use the same colour, Lothern Blue. We're going to use this, I think it's, yeah, Lothern Blue, and we're going to use a layer brush, this small layer brush. Now the role for this is to go on the edge, as you can see here. I'm going to do this very carefully. You literally do that. And you keep rubbing it till you see it blends in with the black along there. See a little bit more. So you just do that like so. And you keep doing that. Just got to put a little bit on here. See how it blends in? So it blends in with the black, and it blends in with the edge there. And then you go along the top here and do the same effect. It does take a bit of practice doing this. It is quite a difficult thing to do, must admit, but with a bit of practice, we'll just keep going. So it looks as though it's a ray, it's alive. So just keep going, just build up with layers. And that's not a problem at all. And then, whilst it's on camera, what I do now to make it look as though it's even brighter, because that there, in my opinion, is a bit too dark. So what I do is I actually paint the bottom solid onto here, going along like that, and then literally getting rid of that detail there, because you want it to look bright, because that's the whole point of the plasma ray. So you get rid of that, then after that go over the top here. Literally blends in like so. And whilst that's wet, just get rid of that. Like that. It's not quite finished, but there's another stage after this to really enhance the rays in the plasma. Plasmas do take time. Don't rush whatever you do, because you want it to look good. And it's worth... Oh, that was the heater. So you want to do that. So you just blend it in. You see how it blends in? I'll just repeat it on the side again into here. So again, solid, get rid. Onto there. And onto here. So there you go, simple as that. And then in the next stage I'm going to show you how to really brighten up. As you can see now, plasma rays are almost done, and the vibrance of the plasma has been applied, the effect there too. So just to enhance this a little bit more, to give it a bit more contrast, we're going to be using, if I can find it, I think, where is it now? We're going to be using, there it is. So we're going to be using white scar just to enhance the edges. So what you'll need is you'll need a artificer layer brush for this. And what you're going to do is very carefully, you can see here, just do the edge like that. That's all you have to do. Just enhance the edges around there. Here. I'll just show you one as an example. Do that around there, do that around there, and do that around there. So you see how it enhances the colour. So you've got the white and you've got the turquoisey colour and that kind of thing. And then also, you can do very carefully, artificial layer brush, go along the top. See how it blends in with the plasma on the top? So you do that, again very, very carefully. Just go along like that. It is as simple as that. See what that looks like now. So I'm going to neaten this up later on, but you'll get the idea. So you see that on camera. So I've done the edge along there, and then on the top there, just to give it that contrast and those colours, vibrant colours, colliding. And that's the whole point of plasma rays looking like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enhance this, and then that's the plasma rays finished. As you can see now, the plasma rays are finished, and it's brought the weapon, in my opinion, to life, and I hope it'll be the same for you guys as well. So the next stage we're going to do is we are going to make this heavy onslaught Gatling cannon a bit more as though it's fired a lot of shots. So we're going to do some burning effect at the end of the barrel. So what you'll need is Seraphim Servia, just a little bit of this stuff, and just get a medium layer brush and just apply it to the whole thing. Just Seraphim Servia there. And you allow this to dry for a few minutes or so. So we've done this section here, and then we blend it along in the middle, just in there, and then again a wet brush, blending it in like that. So the colours blend nicely like that. So I'm going to let that dry, and whilst that's drying, I'm going to be sorting out, it's quite stiff, isn't it? So I'm going to be sorting out the Mithril Silver on the details here, just to make it so it's a bit more enhanced, like areas like here. And furthermore, I will be tidying this up as well whilst that dries. It's very important that you allow that to dry. You apply the next colour on top of that. You can see there that the barrel there with the burnt effect at the end is now dry. That's the Seraphim Servia. So next effect we're going to be applying is Sycorax Earthshade. So we do the same thing again. So I'm going to make this quite dark there. Like that. And then not as far along here. So apply that along like that. Just applying it, just to make it look as though it's had that burn effect onto there. You can do a light coat along here on the top. Allow that to dry, and whilst that's drying, I'm going to be sorting out the metal. As you can see there, I've tied up the metal along here, just to give it more enhancement around there as well. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to wait till it dries, and then I'm going to apply the next colour. Now that this is dry, at the end, we're going to apply another colour, and we are going to be using Drukhari Violet. Again, give it a good shake. This is going to go on the end here, and it's going to look like this. So just apply a good coat of this on the edge, along here. When that dries, you'll see that the afterburn effect has been applied. So there you go, it looks like that. It's a very simple technique. Just go along the edge, along there, along like that. It's as simple as that. And then I'm going to do some, just a faint amount on the top here. Just to give that effect of wear and tear on the barrel. And then I'm going to paint some purple in here. Oh, that's good. Like that. Do all that. And then just do it along here. Easy as that. So you can see now, after I've done this, I'll give it that way actually. Go along, you do that. So there you go. So it's a little bit of an after effect along the barrel. And you leave that to dry, and then we'll see what the next stage is. So we're getting there now, we're getting a lot of detailing done now, and it'll really enhance this miniature. There you go, that's the barrel wear almost done, and we're going to apply another colour, and we're going to use Guilliman Blue. Now this is to go right on the end, it's just to change it, the colour slightly. So I'm going to apply this and do a thin coat of that down there. Thin coat of Guilliman Blue. So you can see that along here, and along there, and along there. Just to give it that little enhancement, that you can, if you want to, very faint coat along there. So a little bit of a glaze, and that there is pretty much the barrel wear complete. I'm going to enhance some colours into here, and then that's that segment done. Now we're going to go back to the Dreadnaught. Now we're going to do some extra painting work on the intricate design and more detailed work. So we're going to be doing the red wires. I think when we do the red wires, I think we'll get that done. So what you'll need is you'll need a base coat of Khorne Red. So Khorne Red. So give that a good shake. So there you go. So Khorne Red. Now, just looking here at the kit itself, there's wires here that are red, and then also there's a couple of I think actually looking at the picture on the computer, there's actually one red wire there, so I'm going to have to do that. That's fine. So let's look at the front just a second. There you go. So let's just paint one of these wires, just as an example. So you'll need a small layer brush for this, obviously, to get good paint. And then you just apply the red This is a base coat, so you'll probably need a couple of coats of this. This will really bring the miniature to life. So I'm just going to do that there. So you can see there's a bit of red in there. There's a red wire. And I think there's another one just here as well, actually. I'm going to do that one. So yeah, just basically wherever there's a red wire, you just do a base coat of Khorne Red. So I'm going to do all the wires and we'll go on to the next stage. The next stage after that is you apply Mephiston Red as another base coat but a highlight. So for example, where the red wire is, just simply apply that colour over the top. So it's just to give it a bit more colour and give it good contrast. So you can see there, that Mephiston Red base coat has gone over the Khorne Red nicely. You do that all over the red areas. So as you can see here, the red wires are done, and also done that red scope as well, bringing those colours to life. And now, a further highlight, we're going to use Wild Rider Red to apply a highlight. Let's see if I can get this good shake up. Just needs a bit more. So I think that's pretty good. Let's see if we can do that. There you go, that's a bit better. Let's apply that now. So over here, so if you look, I'll zoom in for the camera so you get to see, because it's quite intricate detail. So you just do an edge highlight with the Wild Rider Red and it brings those colours to life, and that's it. It's as simple as that. You just bring them to life there, and with the Wild Rider Red just over the edge there along the red scope. As easy as that. And then the larger parts, good shake, you just apply that onto there. Simple as that. And then over here, and then if there's any other red areas. So I'm just going to quickly do this because I need to show you. It shouldn't take too long. Just bear with me, guys. Just apply that a little bit more. Just on the top. That. And it's the same with this wire here. Goes like that. There you go. Simple as that. And that's the red done there. Just clean that up. And then now, I'm just going to put this a little bit more into here along the back. That's it. Blend those colours together. So it goes to there. One more. I'm not forgetting I've got to do the weapon as well, the heavy onslaught Gatling cannon. So that's that there. And then I'm going to, where is it now? Oh, there it is. I'm just going to do this here. Just a simple colour like that. Easy peasy. So just do that. So it's a good colour Wild Rider Red. It's the cross between orange and red. It's an excellent highlighting colour. Doing reds. So I think that's pretty much it. So it looks like that's the red wiring completed. And we're going to go on. It's just a quick segment. I'm going to go to use Black Noir. I'll do crystal here. Just applying that there. Let that dry. And then whilst that is drying, there's another magic trick I've got to do. And that is, we're going to use White Scar. Use White Scar just to do a dot. If you can see there, just apply it on the top right hand corner. Bang. That'll do. Simple as that. So you got the shine and then the colours blending in. So there you go. And then the next stage after that, so we've done the red wires, now we're going to do the checkered orange and black wiring. So the base coat you will need is you'll need Averland Sunset. Now Averland Sunset is a base paint, so it's important that you use this colour. So Averland Sunset has got good pigment there as well. Now we're going to be using a small layer brush just to be on the safe side. So as you can see here, actually not all of it will be checkered. So I'm judging by the picture on the website. The checkered pattern we're going to put here, and this is going to be plain. And then there's going to be a couple other wires. If I do this manually, looking at the instructions, that's going to be plain and that's going to be checkered. But you still need to do base coating anyway with regards to that. So what you do is you just do you probably need 2 coats of base coat onto here. It really is as simple as that. So I'm going to do this to all the wires, and then we're going to see what the next stage is after that. So once all of the Averland Sunset has been applied, I use 2 coats by the way, just to make sure that there's no ghosty areas when applying the paint. But going back to the stripe effect, the checkered paint I'm going to use Black Noir, because the reason being I use Black Noir, it's easy to adjust and it won't dry as quickly as the other paints, as it's low pigment. So, looking at the illustration, I'm going to do it as though it looks like this. So that's that one there. And I'm going to keep doing this till we get a good pattern. This is just a base coat. Basically what you're doing is you're doing the pattern. You don't have to worry about the detail at the moment. Just have to make sure that the squares, or the lines rather, the pattern looks good. And that's the primary aim of this tutorial. We want it to look good, don't we? So, Black Noir is your guide. So there you go, I'm going to carry on and I'll come back and we'll see all the results. As you can see, the checkered paint is coming on really nicely. So the good thing about Black Noir is that you can adjust any mistakes, anything like that, because it's low pigment, simply applying with water. So the next stage we're going to be doing is that we're going to enhance that yellow and give it a bit more contrast, and we're going to be using Yeriel Yellow, and it's an edge highlight, and it's just simply goes along like that. That's all you need to do. It's just to enhance that colour, like you would see in a real checkered pattern in real life. So you just enhance that colour, and it's as simple as that. And once you have the pattern, it's easy from then on. So just apply a bit of paint here, just to go along there. If there's any mistakes, don't worry, just cover it up over the top like that. So I'm going to do this to the whole and all of the patterns, and I'll come back for the next stage. The last stage for doing the checkered pattern, just to enhance the black, because it does look a bit too dark, is to use Eshin Grey. Now Eshin Grey is to go halfway, if you can see here, just to go halfway just along around like that. It's really simple to do, just halfway along the black. So when I get this line done, for example, pattern should look like that. And when that's done, the checkered pattern is complete, and we're going to go on to the next stage. As you can see now, the checkered pattern is complete, and that stage is finished. And then going back to the Dreadnaught, I've also applied this technique on some of the cabling as well. So the Dreadnaught now is really coming to life with the colours. And now I'm going to do some green wires, not as common on this model, but you still need to do some green wires anyway in this tutorial. So, and also bearing in mind there is a few of the scopes that are green as well. So we're going to be using Warpstone Glow for this, and it's just a layer paint. I'm just going to quickly use the Artificer layer brush, because it's quite a small hole. You paint it on that area there, and there's a few wires actually that are green. Not as common, still they need to be painted. So I need to do that there. You'll probably need 2 coats of paint for this. And is there anywhere else? I think there's one over here. So I'm just going to quickly do this for you guys, because we're on a roll. We're going to do that. Like I said, it would probably need 2 coats, because it's not a base coat, it's a layer paint. But the good thing about the green is that it enhances even more colour with the model. So that's that there. So there you go. I think it is pretty much done for that section there. So it's just a base coat onto the green. That there. Let's see if that looks good. Yeah, that's better. Alright, it's getting there now. Much better. So that there is complete. And then the next stage, we're going to be using Eshin Green. Again, give it a good shake. Again, this is a highlight over the top of that previous colour. So wherever it's green, along here, bang, it's done. Just do that. Don't do too much so it covers over all of the base paint. Do it so enough so you get a good highlight. So that's that there. I'm going to do the same with the gem here. That's that there. It's awesome. And then I'm going to just do it quickly. Do this here. I will do the left frill as well, and I think that's going to be slightly different, so that's going to be at a separate stage, the laurel there, but it will be green, but it's a slightly different technique, so I'll do that in a separate stage. So that's that paint finished, and then after that, just to enhance the colour even more, I use Moot Green. And Moot Green just needs a bit of a shake up. So Moot Green's a good paint, and this enhances the colour even more. So let's go into here. You can see there. Goes onto there. You see how the colours collide, and that's what you want. You want all three colours visible, not too much so that one colour covers all of it. So I'm just going to do the same with this, the gem, and then the edge. Just tidy that up. And then just the edge here with this side. So that's that there. We're almost done with the cabling now. It's looking really nice. So, and then quickly using Black Noir, which is the same process, similar, to do that gem in the corner, or scope, green scope, and then blend with colours onto there. Allow that a few seconds to dry. So it's an old paint, so but it's a really good paint. It's really useful. It's low pigment. You want a mix of low pigment and high pigment paints because they both have their advantages. And so there's one more thing I've got to do, of course, is to finish that scope off. Is to use a bit of white scar and just to dab it in the top corner there, like that. Maybe a bit too much, but don't worry if you put too much. You just paint over the top. Actually, I'll start that again. So again, don't worry, don't panic or anything like that. You just simply do it again, because with the dot you need to get it right. So that's that there. There you go. Allow it to dry. And then take your time. Let's see if we can do it properly. It should be there. Yeah, that's a bit better. I'll tidy it up a little bit more. Should be. Yeah, that's better now. Yeah, I'm happy with that. That's good. So that's the green scope done. And yeah, it's getting there now. It's pretty good now. With the details are looking great. Now, what we're going to do, and the good thing about this kit, the reason why I've done the Dreadnaught, it's got a bit of everything. It's got a bit of grey, it's got a bit of green, it's got a bit of red, it's got yellows, everything like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to paint a light. So this is my method of painting lights. Now, what I use is this is, what's this called now? That there is called acrylic, sunflower. This is what it's called, sunflower. So I'm so used to the Citadel paints I can't find the names for the other brands. But I'm going to turn this upside down just to save a bit of time and to prevent wasting paint. I'm going to use a small layer paint into here. I'm just going to cover the whole thing with this paint, so don't need to worry. So I'm going to give this a couple of coats, and when I come back I'll show you what to do next. So I've given roughly 2 coats where that light is now, and I'm going to apply Reikland Flesh Shade over the whole thing. And you do this to fill in all the gaps and to give it contrast and depth. So I'm going to use a small layer brush and cover over the whole thing like that. It looks untidy at the moment, but don't worry, it will be tidied in the next couple of stages. And you allow that to dry for about 5 or so minutes and apply on the next stage. So whilst that was drying, I painted the targeter, which is the red targeter, on the Icarus rocket pod on the top of the Dreadnaught. Now the next stage, we're going to continue with the light, is that we're going to repaint over the top with sunflower. Redo that. Use an artificial layer brush. Now you need to be quite careful not to go over the edges. So I'm just going to simply do that and that, like that, over the top. As you can see there, just those edges like that, you can see. So I'm going to carry on doing this. You'll probably need a couple of coats, just to be a bit careful. So once you've applied the sunflower, to finish off the connectors for the light, so where you see the lines, it needs to be tidied up. So I'm going to use white scar. So white scar along the edges, and you'll see in a minute the light will be nice and tidy. So you apply white scar, you simply go over the top like that. You'll probably need a couple of coats. So you can see there, just goes over the top like that, and then like that, and then like that. Pretty easy. And then around the edges as well, which is what I'll do. So I'm going to finish this off, and then we're going to go on to the next stage. So now the next stage we're going to be doing is we're going to be sorting out this on this size symbol here. We want to give that a little bit of life. So the paint we'll be using is we're going to use Chaos Black or Abaddon Black. So Abaddon Black. Abaddon Black is a base coat. So looking in the narrative, the black mainly would be on the right, and then the greyish white will be on the left. And then the skull will be the black on the left, and then it will be on the right. So I'm going to use a small layer brush for this. So I'm going to give this a base coat. For the top, knowing Abaddon Black, you probably need a couple of coats for this. And I'm just going to paint it like that. And over the top, like that. So that's pretty good. So I'm going to do the bottom as well, on the sides. So there's no hidden areas. Let's just tighten that up. Let's go around. pretty good. Pretty pleased with that. Just give it another coat like that, and then I'm going to do the black on the other side. We may as well. We'll get that done. So apply the black. Put it there. It's got to look good, so just got to make sure this is looking nice, pretty. So that's that. Don't worry, the colours will be enhanced again. This is just a base coat, so you'll see the detail. And we're going to use Lothern Grey. So we're going to use that paint to do the opposite side of the base coat. So Lothern Grey. Probably need a couple of layers of this paint. Just remember, white, majority of the white goes on the left, as you can see here. So I'm going to carry on, and then we're going to go on the next stage. So the next stage, after you've done 2 coats, is I'm going to apply Nuln oil. Just a little bit of Nuln oil. Now this is to get rid of the starkness on the edges, like around here. So you want to neaten that up, just with a little bit of Nuln oil. And do the same for this side. Simple as that. Allow that to dry, and then go on to the next stage. So I've applied that wash now with the Nuln oil, but what I've also done, I didn't put this on the video, is just basically on the edges there I've applied Guilliman blue around the edges, and then I just blended it in with this blue here, just to give it that good depth and contrast onto there. So whilst the Guilliman blue is drying, I'm going to be using Lothern Grey again, just to give it that highlight. Now I'm going to use Artificer layer brush for this, because it's quite intricate. So what you need to do is just very carefully just repaint over the top of that. There. It's going to actually add a little bit of water. Just add that on the top. To that there. It's looking good. And then just apply again a little bit more on the sides here. Just to enhance those colours. See how the contrast, the colours comes in. So it's looking very pretty. Now it's a bit of a challenge painting this miniature. It was quite daunting to begin with, but now we're beginning to see this Dreadnaught come to life when it comes to completion. Done that, just do it very carefully so that it doesn't ruin the detail on the edges. And the Guilliman blue is almost dry, which is good, because I'm going to do white scar very carefully on the edge there, just on the edges. So it gives it that edge highlight, not too much so that it becomes too bright, just very subtle. So you just keep go. And I may as well keep this on film rolling. Keep it rolling for you guys. Because I may as well do the next stage as well on camera. Keep it going. There you go. There's a bit of detail there. Just a little bit more of that good there. Just like that. So, to give the black good contrast, not Abaddon Black, we're going to be using Eshin Grey as an edge highlight. Just Eshin Grey. You can use Dawnstone if you want to, which I may do. It just depends on how dark it is. So Eshin Grey, just to go over the edge, like that, over the Omnissiah symbol. The Omnissiah symbol now is pretty much almost done. It just gives the vehicle a bit of character. I could have left it plain metal, but knowing me by now, I love doing things narratively and accurately in the lore. So yeah, I think it will need a bit of Dawnstone just to enhance that edge. Now Dawnstone is like the halfway between Administratum Grey and Eshin Grey. The next one will be Dawnstone. So, again, twisting the brush. I'll just do that. It'll really enhance the colours. Yeah, it's paid off. Yeah, I'm glad I used Dawnstone now. So it's as simple as that, I think. That's the Omnissiah symbol complete. You can see there the Dawnstone, and then you've got the Eshin Grey, and then you've got the base coat of Abaddon Black, and then you've got the whites and the greys, and the oil, it just gives it a shadow. So it's looking good, and that is complete. And the next stage, what are we going to do now? I think whilst we're on the grey, we're going to do the actually I need to do the laurel first, the green laurel. So I'm going to do that. So base coat, Warpstone Glow, and I'm going to do this off camera, and I'll show you the next stage after that. So I've done a base coat of the Warpstone Glow, and whilst I was doing that off camera, I did a base coat of Khorne Red on the knot as well. So the next stage, as the reason why that I mentioned earlier on that it is slightly different, is because there is a glaze. Now it should be somewhere. I don't think I mentioned it in the video, but I think it's. Let's just find out. Oh, here it is. That's why. It's over here. It will be mentioned in the description below. It's the Waywatcher Green. Now, Waywatcher Green, I just apply this over the top. So sorry about that. I forgot to put that in the intro. That's not a problem. So I'm just going to put that over the top, like that. And allow that to dry for a couple of minutes. Leave that to dry for a couple of minutes, and then whilst that's going on, I'm going to do a base coat and do the laurel name tag, which is just down here. So I'm going to do a base coat of this. So whilst I do a base coat, probably need a couple of coats to do that. So I'm going to do it off camera, I'll wait till that dries, and do the next stage. So you can see there the front name, has been coated, and I gave that around 3 to 4 coats, so multiple layers of thin coats is always better than one thick coat, because you don't want to obviously get rid of the detail. And I've also made a start on the purity seal on the left, so I gave that a couple of coats as well. So the next stage now is we're going to apply Seraphim Sepia, and we're going to wash over the top of the sunflower. So take that here and apply this very carefully, because you don't want to ruin the detail where the glaze, Guilliman glaze is. So just apply very carefully over the top. Go over like that. It's pretty simple. Just do that over the top there. That's for this one, but then for the purity seal, as we want it to make it look a bit different, allow that to dry. I'm going to put the Seraphim Sepia away. I'm going to use Reichland Flesh Shade for purity seal. So I'm going to do that. It's going to cover the whole. It's just to make it look a little bit different. So that's the aim of doing this, because we like things to look different. So allow that to dry, and then whilst that's drying, I'm going to apply Screamer Pink. So Screamer Pink will be applied. So Screamer Pink, this is the base coat paint, and that's going to go on the purity seal itself there. So I'm going to give that a good coat of paint. And when the washes are dry, I'm going to show you the next stage. So whilst that was drying, I did a bit of the Stromhost Silver just to finish along that detail on the vision slit there. Now that it's pretty much base coat is done, I'm going to be repainting the laurel. I want to get this done and out of the way, so we're going to use Eshin Green. Eshin Green for this. So I'm just going to very carefully apply that to the leaves, because you want it to look good. So that's that there. Do the same the opposite side. And I'm going to apply this, and then the next stage we're going to apply it with the next paint over the top of that. So now that the Eshin Green has been applied, we re-highlight over the top with Moot Green. So I'm going to apply this paint using an artificial layer brush going over the top. As simple as that. Don't do it so it's too stark, you see the original colours. Just gives it that contrast. You see that there, and it is as simple as that. And that's the laurel done. And we're going to use Mephiston Red going over the top here. Like that. There you go. And then I'm going to use, which colours should we use? Yeah, we'll go for Wild Rider Red. That's good. Just to give it some enhanced contrast. It goes over the top like that. So there you go, simple as that. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to paint over the top with a bit of Reichling Flesh shade over the top here. Just quickly use this artificial layer brush. Just going to use that, bang, and around there. Around there, and let that dry. And whilst that's drying, I'm going to use sunflower to paint the wreath and the parchment for the purity seal. So I'll be back in a second and we'll go to the next stage. So you can see now that I've applied the sunflower over the purity seal paper, and then what I'm going to do now is to give the purity seal on the top contrast. I'm going to apply Tuskgor Fur over the top. It's a really good paint to do that I use for the purity seals. See, it's kind of like a creamy red colour. It's a really good paint to use. And it is as simple as that. And that's all the purity seals done. Pretty much just double check over the top. Yep, I think that's good enough. So that's fine. And then after that, I'm going to use Steel Legion Drab. Now, I haven't used this paint yet, but it's just to neaten up on the front sections here. So it's just a tiny amount. It's just to tidy it up a little bit. Over there. Along here. And along there. Just to put that. So I've decided not to put any lettering on here because it's going to be covered over with the armour plate. So I'm going to be doing that over the top. So next stage now, after that, just going up and down with all these paints because I've got to get it done, is going to use Eshin Grey. So Eshin Grey over the top, and we're going to paint the lettering on the purity seal. So we get the purity seal done, and you have to very, very carefully do little lines, words of honour for this Dreadnaught. You literally do that very, very carefully. I'll show you guys this because it's very, very important. You want it to look good. That's the whole point of doing these tutorials. So I'm pretty happy with that. Like that. It looks good. And I'm actually going to put a little bit of highlight as well of White Scar, just to enhance the purity seal a little bit, not too much, just a little bit. So just a little bit over the top. So apply it down here. Apply it down there. And then on the side here. Like that. I'm just going to do some of the back as well. I'm not going to put any lettering in the back because there's not really much point. Well, I could do, I suppose. So I may as well do that quickly. I'll do that here. You can hear in the background there's a fan because it's quite hot tonight. So apologies for that. But at least you got the background music to try and cover over the sound. So I'm happy with that. So yeah, I'm not going to paint this because it's going to be covered over with the armour plate here. So it's not a problem. So I'm going to do this section here, and then I'm going to advance to the next stage. It's pretty complete actually, almost complete. As you can see, I've done the front laurel along there, and I've used the sunflower to give it a highlight just around the edges, just to go over it again after the Cyprian Surfer has been applied. Now the next colour I'm going to use is I'm going to mix two colours. I'm going to mix white scar and sunflower. So you'll need a little bit on your palette, just a little bit here, not too much, about 50-50 consistency. It's the same here as well. Should. Oops, the wrong one. There you go. Just a bit more. There you go. And it's just to give just a little highlight. Maybe a little bit more actually. Just a little bit along the edge. Not too much. Just to make it as though it's enhanced. Like that. And doing that. Like that. I think that looks pretty good. I'm just going to go on the side here. Along there and along here. So once that's completed, if you're very skilled and you want to have a bit of a challenge, you can write the name down if you want to at the front. So I'll try to do the font as though it's a Gothic theme font. So I'm going to copy the name at the front of the box or on the Games Workshop official website, because it has a similar design and everything like that. So it's going to require me a lot of concentration. So let's paint the let's do one letter for example. So the colour you'll need for that is that you'll need Eshin Grey. So I use Eshin Grey for this. It's just one coat. That's all you need, and you'll definitely need an artificer layer brush for this, because this is extremely detailed what you have to do. So just very carefully apply this. So I'm just going to do that very carefully. V. So have to do it very carefully, like that. And then what I do is I do a line across to there, across to there, and then do a line again. So you see that there, it's got a slight line on the top. You can see it in focus. So that's how you do one of the letters. So I'm going to carry on and do this letter, and then when we come back we're going to see what it looks like, and it'll look really cool. As you can see now, the lettering is all finished. So I've done a few adjustments, mainly to alter some corrections, but other than that it's looking good. I think his name is Valius, the Redemptor Dreadnaught. And then the one thing I've got to do is, if I lift this up, is if I got to do these details here. I'm not going to do the bottom there because this is going to be glued down. It's just to make it as though you see it and it's been painted, so it's a lot easier. But the bottom bit I'm not going to paint for the purposes of time. So, but if you want to, of course, you can do that. It's just that I'm going to be gluing this down anyway. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to do the stone, which is at the front. Now the base coat you'll need is you'll need Dawnstone. And I recommend you'll need 2 coats of this to be applied. So 2 coats. You apply it to the whole surface area. You'll probably need 2 coats of this. This paint, just cover it over the details. Just cover it over like that, including the skull. And then when we come back to the next stage, we'll see what else needs to be done. We're almost there now. Things are getting done. So once you've done 2 coats of the Dawnstone, you'll need Nuln oil to wash over the entire thing. So you have to do this very carefully. So I'm going to use a small layer brush for this. You apply it to the whole surface area here. Now the reason why you have to be a bit careful is you don't want to lose detail around here, and furthermore where the laurel is. If you do, don't worry, you can just simply tidy it up. It's not a problem. So just do that there, at the top. It is as simple as that. Like that, and you allow that to dry for a few minutes, and then go on to the next stage. So you can see that the Nuln oil has been applied, and what we're going to do now is that we're going to recover that paint, as in we're going to use the Dawnstone over the top of the patterning. So give this a good shake, and then just apply some paint here. I'm going to use a layer brush for this. And it's just to go over the details, just like that. So if you do that, it'll come out nicely to there. And then around here as well, the detailing. Like that. And you just keep going. And then we're going to apply another shade of grey later on. So you gradually build it up, so it gives it all good contrast and that kind of thing. So in the next segment I'll show you what paint to apply next. So once the Dawnstone has been applied and you've done the coat over the top, we're going to apply Administratum Grey as an edge highlight using an Artificer layer brush. And just need to be a bit more. So we're just going to go around the edges like this, just very carefully along the edge, like that. It's just to give it more contrast, because at the moment it's a bit too dark. But with the Administratum Grey, it will really bring those colours to life. So just to do that there. And then you can, if it's a bit too light, just do a second coat. Like that. So you just keep going, and you do all the edge highlights and details just on there. Like that. So that's looking good. I'm pleased with that. So you just keep going, and then we'll progress to the next colour. As you can see, it's almost complete with the pattern now, and I'm going to use Ultramarine Grey to just do some of the edge highlights, not all but some, just to give it a bit of colour. So just on the edge there, around here, anywhere that is sharper detail. So just to collide with those colours on the edge and that kind of thing. So you keep going, just do a couple of edges here, and that should be finished, and that is. So I was kind of deliberating, should I paint the these here? I think to sum up this tutorial, I think I should. So I've got the actual names on the website, because I didn't know what the names were for this Dreadnaught, so I'm copying the Games Workshop method of painting the names. So I've got a picture in front of me, and I will paint it exactly the same just to keep it to the narrative. So I will do that. So I'm going to paint the names like the previous method of how to do your lettering at the front. So I'm going to actually tidy this up at the back as well, and that kind of thing, just to finish it off. So I'm going to tidy this up, and then we're going to go on to the next stage. You can see now that the name inscription has been painted at the front, and I put just a rough coat of black because that's going to be covered over. I just wanted it just as a shadow colour, just to go over the top of there. So this is going to be glued down anyway, so it's not a problem. And anything else that I've done, I've just enhanced the silver on the Onslaught Gatling cannon. I haven't done the armour wear or anything like that, as in like the heat of the barrel or anything like that. I've just left it as it is. I've neatened it up with a bit of Retributor Silver for that. And then the flamer is looking really cool. I've done a little bit of the Black Noir, which is a very light pigment, and blended it in so it looks as though it's smoked. So I drilled a hole as well for obviously the Promethean to fire out of, so that's cool. And then yeah, just neatened it up and blended it in. And then one of the last stages now of the painting is to paint the rocket pods. So almost forgot about them, but it's not to worry. So actually I'm going to take these off because I use these just to look at, see what it looks like. But anyway, we're going to look at the rocket pods, these little things. So the Icarus rocket pod and the grenade launchers, Fragstorm grenade launchers. So we're going to do them and get them out of the way. So I'm going to paint these Chaos Black. So I beg your pardon, I'm going to use, here it is now, I'm going to use Negro Black as for the base coat, so it should be one coat only. So I'm going to quickly paint these whilst on camera. So it just goes over the edge like that, so that hopefully you don't want it to, go over the edge like when painting the weapons earlier on. So it's just a simple coat like that, just a rough coat like that, very carefully. You can even use an artificer brush if you really want to. I'm just going to do that, like there. looking good. So there. And then we'll do the other side. Don't worry about it being too glossy. That's going to be sorted out with the matte varnish later on. So there's that there. I'm going to do the other side as well. Let's take it from the top there. So paint them. So it's looking good. It's just there. Just very, very carefully. Like that. You can tell that I'm a left-handed painter. Use my left hand. So they say, I don't know if it's true, but left-handed painters are more technical than right-handed painters. I don't know if that's true, but I know right-handed painters are excellent at painting as well as left-handers. So, yep, getting that. But anyone can do this as long as you just keep practicing. So practice makes perfect. Almost done now. Just get this on camera. Keep it rolling. You guys, make the most of this tutorial. We are getting there. Okay, now we'll just finish that there. A little bit there. That's fine. I think that's pretty good. So, what you'll need for this stage is you're going to have to need. We're going to use Dawnstone. So Dawnstone for this stage, and this is the base coat for doing the rocket pod. It's very easy. The rockets, there's no dots on the end or anything like that. It's basically 2 layers of grey. It's as simple as that. Actually, there's a couple of 5 bits off there. I'll take that off. Lovely. I'll just take that there. It's getting there now. This vehicle is looking pretty amazing. It's an amazing kit. It's very, very, very intricate model. The Redemptor Dreadnaught. You'd be surprised. It's daunting at first, but the key to painting is to be patient. Just be patient. Don't be put off whatever you do. And just follow the tutorials on our channel. And of course you can go onto the Games Workshop tutorials as well, but you can improvise, make your own ideas when you paint your models. This is literally a guide as to how I paint my models, so you may do it differently. And yeah, almost there. Now I'm going to do the rocket pod, Icarus rocket pod, off camera, and I'm going to let this dry for a little bit. It's very important you let that dry. Then I'm going to come back and then we'll go to the next stage. Now that the Dawnstone is applied onto the rockets, we're going to use Administratum Grey, and we're going to do exactly the same process, except it's not going to be as in depth. It's just going to be literally like that. So you still get to see the Dawnstone, but then very carefully just do that. So it covers metal, and it covers mainly over the Dawnstone. There, just at the front here, like that. And see how it brings the contrast together. And let's do the other two. Simple as that. So I'm going to do the rest on camera, off camera, and then we're going to do the final stage of painting after this. Actually, second to last, there is something else I want to do as well. You can see now that the second layer of grey has been applied, and to finish off, to give it even more contrast, is we're going to use Ultramarine Grey. Ultramarine Grey, and it's just a tiny dot. It's a little tiny dot that brings the colours together. It's just to give it a sheen at the top. So I'm just going to do it to here. It's very faint. So you can see here, just applies like that. And then I'm going to do the same with the Fragstorm grenade launchers. Tiny bit, tiny bit. Just have to keep going with these. We're almost there, people. We're almost there. I think that's it. I'm just going to double check to see if there's anything else that needs to be painted. And I think it looks pretty good. There is, I'm going to neaten up that black there because there's a little bit of blue there. I'm just going to double check before you do any spraying or applying transfers, just to double check to see if there's anything missing. So okay, I'm just going to do that off camera, and then we're going to go on to one of the final stages of painting. Once all the double checking is done to see if there's anything missing, we're going to do our last coat. Now, you don't have to do this all over the miniature, especially where it's a bit worn out, but you can, if you want to, just to enhance the vehicle, paint it with Calgar Blue, just on the edges. So using an artificial layer brush, just quickly do a layer, edge highlight over the side, just quickly. It's as simple as that. Quickly do that if you want to, and there you go. I'm just going to keep going and doing this and see what it looks like. As you can see now, all the painting on the Dreadnaught is complete. So it's not over the top as when it comes to the Calgar Blue, because you still want to keep that chipping effect because it is a vehicle. It's just slight hints here and there and in some areas. So I've done that, and then we're going to apply some transfers. So this is a really interesting stage now. So knowing me, that I do things as narratively accurate as possible, so I'm literally going to copy what the GW method is when painting the Redemptor Dreadnaught. So I've got the transfer sheet here. So I've got it ready, and I'm going to apply the transfers that I will need. So I'm going to do that off camera. Now that we're ready to apply the transfers, I've cut the appropriate transfers needed. So I'm going to use an old brush for this task. So I've applied PVA glue, followed by this stuff here, the Microsol, and I'm going to be using that to apply the transfers. So how I apply transfers is actually very easy because it's pretty much flat surfaces on most vehicles, so it's pretty good. So what I do is I use a bit of PVA glue. So for example, let's do an ultramarine symbol onto here. So we literally put that on like that, and then grab the ultramarine symbol you simply place it in the middle like that. So that's pretty cool. Pretty pleased with that. So make sure it's all centered, which it actually looks like it is already, so that's pretty cool. And then you just keep applying the transfers, it's as simple as that, and you'll see this vehicle really transform. So there you go, all the transfers have been applied. Really happy now where the transfers are located, so it's looking good now. We're almost finished with this Dreadnaught, and I'm really excited to use this now in our future games. So anyway, almost done now. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use a sponge, and you're going to dab it very carefully. Where the transfers have been applied, there will be some chipping effects on the transfers. So I'm just going to do it very faintly. Don't do it over the top, whatever you do. Just very faintly. Just like that. Same there. Same onto here. Just like that. A little bit more. Just like that. That's pretty good. And then I can always tidy that up, it's not a problem. And then a little bit on here. To that. And then over here. Just a little bit to this. Just make sure, of course, that it's nice and smooth. Transfer. So it's looking really good. And there you go. Simple as that. So I'm going to tidy this up here, and when we come back, I'm going to show you the next stage. I'm going to be doing the basing. Now that all the transfers are done, we're going to be doing the basing. So what you'll need now is white scar, and you'll need a dry brush for this, a large dry brush, as it's a large base. Now I haven't stuck the Dreadnaught down because it'll be a lot easier to work around, as it's a big model. So gently tap it like that, a little bit more, just an old dry brush, and then any excess to go on here, and then you just dry brush like so. Doing it flicker, you have to flicker it quite quickly to get that effect and to avoid brush strokes. And doing this technique, it's a lot easier, and the effect is really simple. And it comes out really well. So just a bit more into here. Oh, sorry, that just flickered into my face. But anyway, I think the excitement is happening. So I just want to get this miniature out and onto the battlefield. So it's looking good. So it's as simple as that. So you do that there. So whilst the camera is rolling, we'll just do that there. Do that there. That there. And that there. A presto. So as simple as that. So to keep it in consistency as it is with my army, I'll do all my basing like that. So that's that there done. So obviously give the brush a good dry. Now you can get special stuff to clean the paint off. So I think it's something like thinners and things like that. That'll get rid of the dried paint, which I will do. Which I'll need to do that in the long run. But they're still good enough, the brushes. And now we're going to apply a little bit of the Lavado Sepia from Game Colour. This is a really good wash that I use doing all the washes on my miniatures. So undo the lid. I have to be a bit careful so you don't want this to spill. So use that. So I'm going to use this old brush here, this shade brush. So any odd bits that need to be brown, I paint on. So I'm going to apply this effect, and you'll see the final result when it's done. So there you go, that's the Sycorax sepia that has been applied. Now you need to do the base rims. Now it's important that you do this order whilst that dries. If you apply the flock too early, it will stick to the sepia. You don't want that to happen. So whilst that is drying, just to save a little bit of time, we're going to use Eshin Grey on the edge of the bases. So Eshin Grey is a paint that I use for all of my basing when it comes to basing my Ultramarines as well as my Cadians. So whilst that's drying, now this is going to take here about half an hour, something like that, so you have to wait for some time because you don't want the flock to stick to it. So then I'm just going to do that, and you'll need to do 2 coats of this. So 2 coats of this Eshin Grey. Remember, multiple thin coats is better than 1 thick coat. So once that's done, I'm going to glue the Redemptor Dreadnaught onto the base, so then afterwards we can put the flock on. As you can see now, it's on the base, finally glued down. Now it was a little bit difficult putting it on the base because it didn't quite fit in because the sand was covering over where the plastic was supposed to contact, but I chipped away a little bit of sand and that kind of thing, and furthermore I highly recommend using Loctite gel super glue. And the good thing about this stuff, it doesn't run everywhere, as in like it spreads out and that kind of thing. It's a good quality super glue, and I used some activator, and it's from this stuff here. I used some activator. This is from Jarvis modelling service. It's jarvis.co.uk, so therefore now you've got some advertising now. So Jarvis are really good for supplying your model essentials. So Loctite super glue, I put some inside where the toe contacts with the ground, and then I put some super glue in the middle so that it supports, so it won't fall off. So you just have to be a bit gentle, obviously, but with every model, if you take care of it, you have to be gentle anyway. So now that it's all dried, the wash and everything like that, we're going to do our final process, and which is we're going to be using this flock here. Where is it now? Now I forgot to mention this in the beginning, but I'm going to use this flock. It's called Verdant Green from TSS, and this is all the this is every time we put basing and that kind of thing, we always use this grass. It's I highly recommend it. So I got a PVA glue ready, so I'm going to dab some PVA between the gaps here, sort of like, for example, where the base didn't quite cover, but just to cover the feet, it looks as though it's on it. I'll put it there, and then in odd areas. And this is the second to last stage for this miniature. It's fully complete, and what it needs is just varnishing after this. It's ready to go. You have that feeling of satisfaction when another miniature is finished and painted, fully painted and based, and you'll feel achieved. Every miniature you paint, whether you're a beginner or a professional, you'll feel satisfaction after doing it. So really excited about using this model. It's a fantastic looking model. It's challenging to do, but we got there in the end, and thank you for you guys that have watched this entire tutorial. I hope this is useful for collecting your Ultramarines. has been useful for me. I've learnt some stuff when doing my own filming. So you just keep growing, maturing. When it comes to painting, you'll get very far in the hobby. So do that there. It looks as though it's a bit snowy, but that will go in a minute. Cover that. There you go. Keep on going. Almost there. We'll do less parts just to make it look as though it's a bit uneven, but a bit more in other areas. I think that'll do. And then put that to the side. I'm going to use flat tweezers just to pick up chunks. Just chuck it on onto here. So if I turn the camera around a little bit more, there you go. Just to chuck it on like that. I'm going to finish this, and then I'm going to use Ministorum varnish, which is this stuff, and then you'll see this miniature fully completed. Thank you for watching this very first painting tutorial on the Striking Scorpion 82 Plus channel. You've just learned how to paint a Primaris Ultramarines Redemptor Dreadnaught. I hope you found this video useful when it comes to how I paint the colour scheme of my favourite chapter. Thank you for watching, and as always, courage and honour. We march for Macragge, and we shall know no fear.